our Human Relations Commission meeting for Thursday, June 12th. Begin with a roll call. Please, Elena, help us out. Or do you want me to do it? Oh, that's fine. I can take, do you want me to take the roll call? Okay, Commissioner Carnum? Here?
Yes.
Commissioner Kazi? Here. Vice Chair Kraus?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
And Mary Kate Stimler, I'm also here.
Here.
Chair. What's the next part? Oh, sorry, and Commissioner Barr here, and Commissioner Eberly. Yep, great. And with that, I believe we have a quorum and we can get started. The first item today is public comment. Do we have folks here for a couple? I think we may have one.
You would start with, wait.
No, that's okay. This is, public
Yeah.
comment for things not on the agenda.
Yes.
I think you're here for something on the agenda.
Homelessness, events, or work plan? Okay.
Okay.
In that case, you'll want to make a public comment later on the work plan?
Commissioner Palmer.
That's okay.
Smells good. Just because I'm allergic to weed and don't eat it ever, doesn't mean I can't smell
Enjoy.
it and enjoy.
So Chair, it is not something that's on the agenda.
Great, then we'll take public comment now for items not on the agenda.
And Commissioner Barr is here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Good evening, commissioners. Our community, the Muslim community, has and continues to suffer from hate crimes and incidents. In February of this year, in Ulysses, Texas, a 3-year-old Muslim girl was nearly drowned in a hotel pool by a woman who moments before told her, "You're not American." A toddler targeted for being Muslim. Just months earlier in Austin, a 23-year-old Palestinian American, Tariq al-Saidi, was stabbed in the chest in a parking lot. His attacker shouted anti-Arab slurs before plunging the knife into him. Tariq survived, but barely. In December, a 20-year-old Hisham Awarthani, a Brown University student visiting Vermont, visiting his grandparents for Thanksgiving, was shot in the spine while walking with 2 other Palestinian students. He's now paralyzed from the chest down, a young man whose only crime was wearing a keffiyeh and speaking in Arabic. Then in Illinois, a 6-year-old, Wadia Al-Fayumi, was stabbed 26 times by his landlord, a little boy murdered in his own home while his mother was also brutally attacked. He loved soccer and SpongeBob, and his last words were, "Mom, I'm fine." Miami Beach, this past January, a man named Mordechai Barfman opened fire on 3 young men he believed were Palestinian. He shouted slurs and said, "You're Palestinian. You guys have to die." One bullet narrowly missed a vital organ. The shooter didn't know them, didn't care who they were. Their ethnicity or what he assumed it was enough. Never mind that one of the victims was actually an Israeli tourist. He assumed they were Palestinian and hence didn't deserve to live. These are not isolated incidences. They reflect a growing pattern of anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, and anti-Palestinian hate supercharged by the ongoing atrocities in Gaza and the West Bank. The worst part of all is the media and community silence on these incidences. Here in Palo Alto, over a year ago, this commission recommended anti-hate and anti-Islamophobia training for city staff, boards, and affiliated personnel. To me, after I had come here to speak, end of May, because there were some really atrocious things said in this chamber against Muslims by people in this audience. And we were promised that there would be anti-Muslim and anti-Palestinian training done. And it's been over a year. And I've been very patient about this. I've lived in this town. I've raised my 3 children here. I've lived here for 25 years almost. And I just don't understand why there is a delay with everything that's going on. The hate crimes we're continuing to see are a direct result of dehumanization addressed at Muslims and Palestinians in our city here in Palo Alto. When community members we live with weaponize a cry for justice and freedom into something it isn't, that is racism and discrimination. It smears pro-justice advocates and implicitly sends the Palestinians and Muslims that they don't deserve human rights. This attempt
Sorry,
to
can you wrap up? We're over time.
Okay. This attempt to weaponize their call for freedom reveals a deeper bias, one that denies their humanity and tries to silence their suffering. It's all connected, the violence, the erasure, and now the effort to criminalize even their voices. Just in the last 24 hours, humanitarian activists with a valid visa has been revoked here in San Francisco Airport. And our communities continue to be targeted unjustly here and abroad. And that's why we really need trainings here immediately, not after another child is stabbed or another student is stabbed or shot or someone else is attacked for what they look like.
Thank you. Yeah. And we will be addressing the trainings at the end of this meeting as part of our upcoming work plan. Yeah. Are there any more public comments for items not on the agenda? Great. All right, then we will move to, are there any agenda changes, additions, or deletions? All right, then we will move to approve the minutes from the last meeting on May 8th.
I move.
Can I get someone to second that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and take the vote. Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Kraus,
Yes.
Commissioner Barr,
Yes.
Commissioner Kazi,
Yes.
Commissioner Carnum?
Yes.
Great. And Commissioner, Chair Stimler, yes. And with that, we will move to the first business item, which is to discuss the gap analysis report and provide input relating to housing and services for the unhoused as feedback to the City Council. Thank you.
So I'm very pleased to have my colleague, Melissa McDonough, Assistant to the City Manager, who will be presenting to you this evening. So go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you, Minka. And Elena, if you could pull up the slides. This evening, I am very excited to share with you our gap analysis report and hear from you your input related to housing and services for the unhoused. First, we're going to go through the context and key considerations from the report. And then I'm hoping to hear you engage in a discussion, particularly on the key considerations from the report related to homelessness prevention and affordable housing, as well as any focus areas you recommend to the council. Next slide. One more. So now let's launch into demographics a little bit here. There's 2 ways in which we typically get data on people experiencing homelessness. One is through a single day count known as the PIT, or point in time count. Our most recent one was just this January, and we should be getting the data from that later this summer. In the meantime, we know from the 2023 PIT count that our unhoused population here in Palo Alto is different than the population countywide. More unhoused Palo Altans are also unsheltered, and many more Palo Altans are living in vehicles compared to countywide. Next slide. Now, besides the PIT count, another way we get data are from assessments that people take when they accept services. And the infographic you see on this slide shows some of that richer data about people experiencing homelessness in Palo Alto. All of this data is managed through the county, which provides the overall system of care. We were able to pull from the county data and a series of interviews to create the report that you received as attachment D that originally accompanied the gap analysis, and it really provides the richer picture. Next slide. Now, here in Palo Alto, as we continue to increase our resources and level of effort on this complex topic, you can see just some highlights here on this slide. We're also seeing other communities near and far grappling with the same concerns. This is not isolated to the Bay Area, to California. Last year, at both the national and state level, homelessness counts were the highest recorded. Next slide. Now, my apologies to you, but I really liked Mountain View's infographic, so I stole this from them. The system of care for housing and homelessness in the United States is largely funneled through the counties. This has to do with the funding sources have traditionally come at the federal level. And so what you're seeing in this graphic is the overall system of care. At the top, there's the ideal situation where you prevent someone from becoming homeless. Then you can see there's different scenarios where there's outreach provided, maybe you take an assessment and then get appropriately queued for a housing program that would meet your needs. Or maybe what happens when you first encounter someone is they just need a bed right then and there, or they need a shower. So that's that emergency shelter graphic you see. And then all of this is made possible through affordable housing development. One of the things that sometimes gets forgotten is that for someone experiencing homelessness, yes, they do need a shelter, but then we need some throughput from that shelter to a permanent home. Next slide. So we're going to move into some of the data that we were able to get out of the gap analysis. The analysis identified mismatches between housing program demand and availability. In the chart you're looking at, the bottom row shows unhoused Palo Altans who were in the queue for specific housing programs. And the top row shows what we had in the pipeline in those categories. Please note, we are not assuming there should be parity between forthcoming units and the exact needs of the unhoused, but the differences are noteworthy. Next slide. Now we're shifting gears a little bit, and this can be confusing, but right now we're looking at affordable units, not programs specifically for people experiencing homelessness, but just literally affordable units. The top two rows show the number of affordable units that are entitled or proposed at each income level in Palo Alto. On the bottom row, we see current Palo Altans who are cost burdened, meaning they pay more than a third of their income towards housing. So many of these renters would likely be eligible for affordable units should they become available. Again, staff is not assuming that there should be parity between forthcoming units and the exact needs of our cost burdened renters. Next slide. I know this is a lot to absorb in a short period of time, so I thank you for your attention on this. The gap analysis laid out some key considerations, things that Palo Alto wasn't currently doing that we could consider taking up, so to speak. And the areas they noted are not all possible areas. They were just some that might be of interest to our community. As summarized on this slide, this included establishing a hotel voucher program, or perhaps converting hotels into shelters, providing homelessness prevention funding, pursuing additional affordable housing funding, adding programs to require or incentivize affordable housing, and establishing a staff housing stability team. So that leads us to the discussion. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective, given your unique charge as a commission, your feedback, particularly on those key considerations relating to homelessness prevention and affordable housing, as well as any suggestions on focus areas as we advance efforts relating to homelessness in our city. Thank you.
Let's start with, well, is there anyone who would like to go first for discussion? Otherwise, I'll start with you, Vice Chair.
I've had the honor of hearing Melissa in the past in our group that talks about RV dwellers and homelessness. And what you've done is an extraordinary analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So the most troubling slide, which we've talked about in the past and which still is extraordinarily troubling. All my toys are in the way? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Minka has organized me, thank God. Is the slide which shows the disproportionate need versus supply. And that's the slide that I've always had so much trouble with, as is most people. It appears that the need is so large and the supply is so moderate. And that's the only remark that makes sense. And I know we're stepping in and we're going step by step in prevention and then emergency means and then transitional housing, then permanent housing. We're doing the things we need to do, but I could not help but pray for something larger at some point in time. Even the work we've done with the RV dwellers and the safe parking, which is extraordinary down on Gang Road. That facility is the landmark now. But we need more because as Councilwoman Julia Lythcott-Haynes suggested, RV dwelling may become part of our ecosystem. People may be priced out of the markets, period. And we need to do some hard thinking on how we deal with this, how we treat them, the services available, because it may be part of our community long-term. And then finally, something near to my heart and Don's heart is the senior affordable housing. And the dearth of it and the extraordinary need as this population in Palo Alto is 20% and going up at a hockey stick because the community is aging. And I believe the numbers were 95% are renters. So that's something I'd love clarity on, and I'd like to make a point of addressing longer term.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to make sure I understand what you're asking, are you looking to understand what senior housing is available or in the pipeline? And are you looking to confirm the number of renters or the percentage of renters?
Both?
Okay, I believe we have our housing planner on the line, Robert Fain. I'm not sure if this is something that he can speak to, but we'll see. Robert?
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Commissioner. Unfortunately, I cannot speak to the specific percentage of seniors who are renters in the city. I can say that in the existing stock, there are a number of developments that do support seniors, and I think with future developments, there's certainly been expressed an interest in there's the dialogue around which populations new affordable developments may serve. And I think there are no units in the pipeline, no affordable units in the pipeline that are specifically targeted for seniors at the moment.
Thank you. Could you take that as a point to be concerned about going forward?
We will be summarizing the feedback.
Could I?
Commissioner Barr?
Yeah, I want to follow up because actually there was a survey done shortly after the pandemic the people were released from the pandemic. It was done by a private company called Polco and Avenidas contracted for it. It was called the Community Assessment Survey of Older Adults, where they did a interview with a random sampling based upon voter registration. And I believe they found that approximately in the Mid-Peninsula area, 45% of seniors were renting. And many of them were right at the kind of the income level that if the rent went up much more faster than their Social Security did, they were going to have a very hard time paying the rent. So I just want to support this as one of the most important issues, and to realize that there is discussion going on about developing affordable housing on downtown parking lots. And that would be, I'm hoping that discussion would emphasize the need for senior housing. There's an interesting, there are two different groups that I have spoken about this. And one is that, well, the best thing to do with low-income seniors is to integrate them into family housing so they can be around families and kids. But there's another group that says, no, what you really want is a senior community. Now, you have, for well-to-do seniors, you have Channing House, which is a very powerful senior community. For low-income seniors, you have Stevenson House. And so this is an interesting question. We as a commission may want to think about this. What's the optimal way of providing housing for low-income seniors? Is it integrating them into family housing, or is it to have a community of seniors that has their own kind of social network and interaction and support system? So this is a major problem. It has been, we've identified it. And as you mentioned, the percentage of the Palo Alto population who are senior is going to be growing very rapidly. So we need to keep this in mind. Thank you.
I don't want to jump in line. Anybody else want to speak before I do?
A quick question, Chair. Is there going to be public comment on this item?
Yeah, after the discussion, right?
If it's possible to have public comment sooner, we might have some local nonprofits on the line that might make some suggestions.
Sure. Do we want to take a break for public comment and then return? That's fine with me.
There's one person online, and so I'm not sure if they were planning on giving public comment, but I will follow the will of the chair in whichever way you'd like to do it.
I think let's wrap up, and then if we have any additional questions after public comment, we can return to discussion if that's okay. Okay. Did you have any comments while we've got you?
Sure. Melissa, I think you're absolutely incredible. I was so excited when you joined our staff and just the expertise you bring. This is the reason that I joined this commission. Is I previously worked in housing, and I think my comment in our recommendations for council is like, full stop, the way we address homelessness is building more housing, and that means making it easier to build housing at all income levels. And whether that is incentives for BMR projects, in market rate projects, or design waivers for affordable developers who pay in lieu fees, or just reducing the process to build housing in Palo Alto. All of those things help us address this. I had one question from a community member who just wanted to know if any consultant time was spent on this report.
Thank you for asking. Yes, we were so lucky. For the gap analysis, we were able to hire Michaela Hellman-Tincher. She is a Palo Alto resident. She's worked on housing for former supervisor Joe Simidian at the county level, and has also worked on housing for the city of Mountain View. And she brought that expertise as well as her own lived experience. I could be wrong, but I think she may live in the property she grew up in order to stay in Palo Alto with her parents and her own young children.
Thank you. I think sometimes there's the public can have kind of a misperception of consultants, and it's usually when we are hiring them, it is because they bring experience, like you just mentioned, like whether that's that valuable lived experience or experience that we just don't have on our staff that we need. I think my final comment is just going to be, what is front of mind for me is, depending on the impacts of federal funding and what we see, I'm very worried about our affordable housing nonprofits in the area being impacted. And if that is the case, we are going to see a lot more unhoused individuals in Palo Alto. And that is just top of mind for me these days.
Commissioner Carney? Or
I had some clarifying questions. What is a non-congregate shelter?
Thank you for asking. A non-congregate shelter, the best way for me to explain this is just in plain language, so I apologize. A congregate shelter is you'd like go into a big space and there's cots set up everywhere and there's no privacy, whereas a non-congregate shelter, you have your own room, or you have some sense of privacy.
And last question. So you were requesting for suggestions on focus areas. I was wondering, what are your, are there any primary focus areas from your point of view? Because in terms of how do you prioritize?
Well, I would say that when we went to council, and one of the reasons why I included the summary minutes from the council discussion is there is so many different tools suggested in the gap analysis, and the council discussion focused on a subset of those tools, and also a subset of tools that came out of looking at the impacts of homelessness on our community. And I thought it would be helpful to hear from human relations commissioners if there's things that maybe got overlooked, or anything that maybe your particular perspective could bring to the conversation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shea?
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this report. I just had two clarifying questions. It looks like they're just under 5,000 cost burden renters here in Palo Alto. Can you define what cost burden means? And then the second is, I noticed that the source report was updated in January 2025. Just curious about if you had done a trend analysis and where are the trends moving into 2026? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. So I'll start with the first one. So being cost burdened means you pay more than a third of your income towards housing. And then in terms of the reason the report was updated was actually way less fancy than a trend analysis. We received some late breaking data, updated data right before it went to print. And we went through and updated tables and we missed a table. So we had to re-update one of the tables. The only trend that I can share with you is one that I briefly mentioned during the presentation, which is that every December, probably not going forward because I think this body has been disbanded, but every December, the agency at the federal level that tracks homelessness reports out on the data it's collected from all the jurisdictions around the United States, and the numbers are through the roof. Since they've been keeping track of this, homelessness has increased dramatically, and it's jumping up every year, and more than you would anticipate even given the pandemic.
Right. All right, I have some feedback for city council. If they are asking for it, I'll give it. There is a sentence in this report that is absolutely and totally unexcusable. The sentence is this: families with children have nowhere to go for shelter in Palo Alto until the city's home key site opens. What? Homeless families in Palo Alto have nowhere to go. They don't have anywhere to go. What is happening? How is that possible? How many billionaires do we have living within the city limits of Palo Alto? More per capita than any other country in the or city in the entire world. Our families have nowhere to go if they are homeless. And I don't see a plan that is going to get them off of the streets or out of their cars or out of their messed up RVs anytime soon. Melissa, it's so discouraging. And I know it's not your fault. I'm not mad at you, but I'm giving this feedback to City Council. I just think this, I mean, I appreciate the gap analysis. I appreciate its rigor, but what I don't see is a plan. Like, we own that Gang Road site, right? Like, can we be building some little tiny homes? Can we ask, like, can we use some of our taxes to home the families who have nowhere to go? And I know, when is the city home site gonna open? I think it was probably in here somewhere.
Well, it's scheduled to open this year. And the thing that is exciting about Palo Alto Home Key is it would add 24 family units to our interim shelter
Yeah.
and housing situation. But thank you for
Yeah.
bringing this
I mean,
to light.
but it's 24, and I believe they're not city specific. I believe they're actually at the county level, right? So we have to share them across the county.
It's a little more
little-
complicated than
okay.
that. So for the initial doors opening, we have the ability to fill every room with a Palo Alton if there's a Palo Alton
Okay,
wanting that room. And then moving forward, we have a commitment from the county to prioritize Palo Altons.
Okay.
But what they're not going to do, if they get a hotline call
yeah,
and there's a family from Mountain View and they're right there and they
Yeah.
want to stay at Home
And there's an
Key
open
and there's
room.
not a Palo Alto family on the line,
Yeah.
they will give it in the future to that Mountain View family.
well, that makes me feel a little bit better, but 24 is not anywhere near the 2,000 low-income people who are at risk, low-income renters who are at risk of being homeless at any point in time because our rent is so crazy here. And I guess, I did look at the notes from City Council, and they talked a little bit about some short-term and some long-term things. And one of the short-term things was hotel vouchers. And I do wonder, like, can we just get can we at least get them in a hotel room? I mean, I don't know, like, I was just thinking, like, what could happen soon? Because there are families on the streets. I think it was at the city council meeting, or maybe it was somewhere else where they said there was 19 children in Palo Alto who don't have a home. In the public school. I think it was I can't remember, maybe it was the RV meeting, but I know that there was something in the range of like 20 PAUSD kids who are enrolled, who are trying to get to school every day and aren't coming from a home. Which makes me think that those 24 units will be filled up pretty quickly. So, housing vouchers are they, I mean, maybe that's one option, but I don't know, like, what are other options that are being considered?
Could I just,
Yeah,
because there are facilities, I think Abode that provides the services at the Opportunity Center, they also have connections to some, they're not in Palo Alto, but they're in the peninsula, it may be group homes or maybe individual apartments that a family with children, particularly if there's domestic violence threatened, they can put them
Yeah.
in there for a while. Now, these facilities are not in Palo Alto, but
Yeah.
there are some that are available to Palo Alto residents.
Yeah.
And Chair, just to address that a little bit. So the way, and I apologize, I am not the expert on this. The expert would be
You don't
the
need to
county.
apologize.
But my understanding is if a family were to call the hotline or talk to an outreach worker, they're going to make every effort to find a space for them somewhere in the county. But there are often multi-month waiting lists for things. I do know that some of my colleagues from other cities are exploring the hotel voucher for multiple reasons. It's also often used for people who are fleeing domestic violence.
Yeah.
It's seen as a safer option. But there are services, and we are all trying our best.
Yeah, I know.
but
I'm
there
not
is-
sorry. It's like I said, it's not feedback to you. It's feedback to the decision makers who have brought this. I mean, this was a set of choices that have been made specifically that said it's okay for homeless families in Palo Alto not to have a home here. And that to me that's a choice. And we can make other choices. We could give people vouchers. I think the other thing that I noticed in this was that there's some housing, of course, it takes so much time and and we have to change all the regulations to make it happen faster. That is for sure. But there's some of this that's also kind of low-hanging fruit, like communications. Like, again, we are in the center of Silicon Valley. It's like, why are people struggling to have a cell phone in our town? But they are, like that was like one of the real serious needs. Unstable access to Wi-Fi, computers, and phones make it particularly difficult for unhoused community members to seek services and secure housing. Doesn't like the Google CEO live here? Like, what is going on? How do we not have cell phones for people? This to me was like so infuriating and so mind-boggling sometimes. Anyway, so I would be curious to hear, like, that one seems to me like something that could be fixed very quickly, like getting people cell phones. But I guess they don't have electricity.
Thank you, Chair. And I might call on my colleague Minka just to say that one of the things that happens is the funding sources that are available for people experiencing homelessness are often tied to very specific metrics and outcomes
Yeah.
and specific types of things you can pay for. But our human services manager has understood this and has done some interesting things with her emerging needs fund.
Oh, yes,
Well, with the Emerging Needs Fund, I think the thing to keep in mind is we are kind of at the mercy of organizations turning in applications and asking for a very specific need. So I have not specifically received one for phones. I know there are organizations or services that do give out phones or lower costs. I don't want to put Elena on the hook, but I know she goes to a county regular meeting and they do talk about resources, and that is a question that people often ask, and then resources come up. And I know at times there have been those resources at the Opportunity Center, but I have not asked recently about that.
yeah, Vice Chair.
If I could interject, I think what you're saying is why aren't we doing more aggressive strategic partnering with some of our tech brethren, whether it be Google or Apple, and why at the city level or the county level aren't we looking to put together the kinds of partnerships that would facilitate this need? That would be my suggestion.
And you are very good at those kind of strategic partnerships. So you might be a great resource for the city to help us get this done. Because it does seem like we have an incredible network of libraries where people could charge their phones if they had them. And it seems like getting people, I mean, that's like, it's literally the last thing on the list of things to do, but it's also potentially the one that we would have the most resources to help tackle the most quickly, and getting people a way to, some of our services require connectivity, right? Like to know if you get off the wait list, you have to be able to get a communication, and these folks don't have cell phones. I don't know. I just think of like what it would be like to live a day in the life without a cell phone, and then to live a day in the life as a homeless person, even more complicated. So that's my feedback on this, is that it's probably one of the most depressing and discouraging documents I have read in a really long time. Because I read it and then I walked around my beautiful neighborhood and I was like, what is going on? It just felt completely insane to me, some of the things I read in this report. So that's my feedback to City Council, is they should move more quickly, be more aggressive. And I know it's so hard at this time when funds are getting cut left and right. And we just had our emerging needs conversation about, this report doesn't mention other things such as nutritional services, but the Second Harvest is struggling now. But it seems like housing and communications just seem like such basic needs of people. So I don't know, take that feedback back in your report, please, and tell them to do more faster. I know at the end of the City Council hearing on this, Councilwoman Lithgow-Hames did mention, could we build something fast? Like, what would it take to build something fast? And there just seemed to be like a little spark of momentum behind her suggestions around, can we build a mini home site at Gang Road? And I don't here's a good question for you. How can we get that momentum going? I know everything's crazy right now. I know it's hard times, but how could we, as a commission, as a city, how could we make that happen faster? Do you have ideas?
Thank you, Chair. I wish I had a great idea for how to resolve this quickly. The thing that I think would be really helpful is if we have consensus and widespread community support or pressure to do a thing, whether that be a carrot or a stick, whether that be, building more housing or putting together a shelter or what have you. But if there is that support from a large swath of the community, that's when those resource decisions get made, and that's when things are more likely to speed up and succeed.
So political mobilization probably is needed to get this going. I get it. Okay. One last thought, and then we can move on to public comment, which is just, that wasn't mentioned in here, but in my conversations incredibly recently, because I was at the homeless fair, yesterday, and some folks just don't feel safe in our shelters. They're actually pretty scary places to be. And so the streets actually feel a lot safer, which in a way I'm like, well, at least we have nice streets in Palo Alto where people can feel safe and the weather is good. But, even if we could just improve the quality of our local shelters somehow, or screen in a way, I don't know, but I've heard stories of, people in psychosis. It's a very scary place to be. Commissioner Barr, do you have something to add on that front?
When we were planning the Opportunity Center opening, Dr. Lars Osterberger and I did a survey of 140 homeless people on the streets. And several of them said, no, I don't want to be around all those homeless people. And it's because their own mental health questions and things means that they don't want to be around other people. They want to be by themselves. Yeah. And so on the street is the opportunity for them to be by themselves.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So I don't know if there's a way of making them feel more private or more safe and secure. Anyway, okay, so those were my thoughts. We can take public comment. Oh, was there another follow-up?
Yeah,
Commissioner
I just wanted to ask, I read that there is like 269 homeless people, but I think there were some discussions that it felt like I heard there are about 2,000 homes that are at risk of becoming homeless. I just wanted to clarify that the cost burden renters do they actually mean at risk? Like what is the actual risk?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner, I'm sorry. Let me see if I'm understanding so the number, there's a couple things I want to unpack about what you said. So one, we don't have a really great count of who's experiencing homelessness. We have the number of people that have done this really, I would characterize as an invasive questionnaire and assessment process in order to receive services. We have people that we visually count during that one-day census, and that gives us an idea, but I wouldn't say we have a very accurate picture of how many homeless people we have. Now, I don't know whether or not you can characterize or generalize that cost burden renters are at risk of being homeless, but I would say that having a cost burden would probably be a risk factor, if that makes sense. You know, if you lose your job and you have a lot of medical bills and your rent is really expensive, then you're at higher risk than if your rent is not that big a deal for you. Does that make sense?
There are a lot of families where they do pay more than third as the rent. So I'm not sure if statistically that, because we're making a lot of assumptions. I just wanted to make sure that if we understand properly what factors lead to it and how much of a problem are we actually seeing, it might be better to find solutions. I feel like there are a lot of assumptions made in this. I mean, people do live paying exorbitant rent, and they might save somewhere else to make those means. I'm sorry, I did not understand. It didn't make sense to me.
Sorry, Commissioner Cronum, I can tell you where I got that number. So the 2,000 is the number of people who spend over 30% of their income and have very low or extremely low incomes. So they're not just people who are making $100,000 a year and paying $30,000 in rent, because that doesn't seem so tragic. These are people who are making, I'm flipping through trying to find the definition, and I know Commissioner Barr usually has it handy, the definition of very low income. Or Commissioner Kazi's got it?
Yeah, so extremely low income is, I believe right now, it's adjusted each year based on county numbers. But I believe it's extremely low income is one individual making $19,000 a year or less.
The metric is what percentage of the area median income, and less than 30% of area median income for that size household is extremely low income. Less than 50% is very low income, and less than 80% is low income.
Okay.
And I'd like to clarify, I don't mean to create an assumption that a cost burden renter is at risk of becoming homeless. This was part of the gap analysis, was looking at housing in general and looking at homelessness and looking at the intersection of the two. And we did notice that there was this disparity with cost burden renters and available units.
Great, let's move to public comment.
Could I do
yeah.
a little,
Rosie, please.
I think I just wanted to kind of, as somebody who has worked with cost burden renters, worked with Palo Altans when they're facing eviction, I kind of wanted to give a little bit more context of what these situations look like. So I'll give the case of one of the very first eviction cases I ever worked on. We had an 89-year-old woman. She had lived in her home in Palo Alto for over 30 years. She was paying an extremely low rent. She had moved in when the building was built. Generally, when the Palo Altans we see facing eviction, a third of them are always seniors. The building was bought. There was a mass eviction. She's 89 years old. She didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have Wi-Fi. She had a landline. And in that situation, first line of protection you want is renter protections. It's also having a unit that somebody, best case scenario, if she did face eviction, perfect world, we would have a unit around the street that she would move into. And that's when I say building housing at all income levels is the solution to this, because we do have a very generous community. One of the best things people can do right now is if they have the means to donate to our housing nonprofits. Our nonprofits are going to be much more relying on individual donors during this time. And I will say, because we have heard from our faith leaders, many of them are very interested in seeing affordable housing being built on their properties. And I will say time and time again, when I was working with tenants facing eviction who got into very dire circumstances, there was always people in the community who are like, I have an ADU. If you need somebody in this, please let me know. There are a lot of community members like that, and it's giving them the opportunity to build that ADU so that it is available. Is there anything else I wanted to cover during the part? And I was going to talk about this later in the update from the police department, because we're having more national dialogue around when an unhoused person refuses services. And oftentimes that is because they are already receiving services or they don't feel safe in a shelter. I think the last thing I was going to say was services, ADU. In the case of, I really support council's recommendation to have more designated city staff to work with renters, because when you have seniors in Palo Alto who, if you're 89 and you've lived in your home for 30 years and suddenly you face eviction, you don't know how to look for housing. You don't know how to navigate these wait lists. And in that case, you do need a social worker there to help you. And that is the #1 investment that I think we can be making.
Great suggestions. Vice Chair?
Just a point, Palo Alto really listened to us going back to 2018, 2017 with the President Hotel. And that was the first layer of renter protection that was put in for eviction, no cause eviction. And what I would urge the city to continue to do is fill out that portfolio of renter protections. You're doing a good job to date, but there's always a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe that's something as a commission we can work on, because I know so many of those
Sure.
protections were based on work the commissioners, including yourself, have done. So, great. All right. With that, let's go to public comment. Elena, do you want to? Great.
Okay, I'll wait till Elena puts up the list.
Okay.
This is actually my first time to attend the Human Relations, so excuse me. And I didn't write out. I'm Patty Irish, and I live at 850 Webster. I live at Channing House. I have a passion for housing. I've been to the city council quite a bit, especially recently supporting the Commons. I really appreciate your urgency. I think one of the biggest challenges for me is a sense that where is the urgency? Because it's really necessary. People are waiting. People have to have housing, and so and they're it's in the pipeline, but it's not. If it's not being made right now, it's a crisis. So I really appreciate it. I hope we can find ways to increase that urgency and actually make some things happen. By the way, I've been on the Stevenson board for I'm not on it now, but I was. I've also been on the Channing House board and on Palo Alto Housing Board for 10 years. I wanted to mention that one of the positives, but it has to get actually started building, when we are doing something like Home Key, and by the way, I ran a homeless shelter in Los Angeles. It was 85 faith communities, and it was a shelter for homeless families. Home Key, when we actually get it built and get people in there, is the first time that when they get there, I immediately get nervous because I believe they have 6 months and then they have to move to permanent housing. We have to have permanent housing ready. So, you can talk all you want about starting something, but you've got to get one step and then the second step started. I did want to mention one that's in the pipeline, if we could figure out how to get it moving faster. And that's the Kipling, the Alta Housing proposal to build on Kipling. You probably know this, but at least a percentage of that housing is designated for homeless. That is huge. I believe it's either 25% or something, at least it's 25 or more of all that. And they have made that into a 7-story, project. Also, by the way, Alta would like to build behind Avenidas. They would very much like to build senior housing. But I do think if we could possibly, now of course it's money, it's lots of things that hold up those affordable projects, but that is a crucial one because and they are excellent at screening, and they have social services, supportive services. So it's extremely, excuse me. Anyway, it's extremely important if they can get moving and actually build that housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nick. Nick, go ahead.
Hi. I guess I'm not sure if this is the correct forum, but I'm wanting to get involved. And I just, in making, I guess one of the speakers earlier mentioned that needs to be consensus for building new properties and accommodating the demand for people that would like to have homes and affordable homes in Palo Alto. And I'm wondering, what the biggest impediment to that is, and how, what are some of the possible actions I can take that that can help contribute to lowering the barriers for building and for making sure that there is an increase in supply of homes. I forget exactly which apartment complex it was, but I think there was one meeting, and I remember seeing that the reason for denying the permit to build the apartment, I think it was around 30 to 40 units, was that there was balconies and bottles could possibly slip off of the balconies and possibly hit someone. And so that, we shouldn't build that apartment complex that would provide 30 to 50 new homes in Palo Alto. And I guess I'm wondering, what is the best possible way to get involved to essentially create more of a consensus to kind of get rid of these barriers that impede the building of new homes and new multi-unit apartment complexes. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I think you've started at the right place, reaching out to your local commissions and planning councils and city councils is a great place to start. So thanks for taking that first step. there any further questions or clarifications after public comment? If not, we can move to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, then we will move to item 3 on the agenda, the review and adoption of policy and public requests for support by the HRC. And I will ask Commissioner Shea if you would be so kind as to sort of walk us through what the proposal is, and we can then open up for discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Just to summarize, just reading from the memo. So in recent years, the Human Relations Commission has received an increasing number of requests from local individuals and organizations requesting support or endorsement of various community events and initiatives. So these requests often relate to public programs that promote inclusion, equity, and social justice, and are generally aligned with our mission. However, to date, we have not developed a standardized process so that we can be consistent in how we evaluate and address these requests. So we have developed some draft guidelines so that we have a consistent policy for the commission to review such requests. And we also have developed some procedures and a draft application form. So, so there you go.
Great. And I'll just add to that. So essentially, just a quick walkthrough of what this would mean. So up to date, the process, if someone is holding a local event, or I think our most recent was a celebration, like a multi-faith celebration, or it could be a Black History Month or Asian History Month type of event. Often people will come to us and say, we would love to have the HRC to sponsor the event. And so we've up to this point never really had any criteria besides they had to get it on the agenda, which means they had to reach out to someone a week in advance, and then with as much context as possible, and then show up at the commission hearing and ask and kind of give us some sense of what they were doing. But the challenge was that wasn't really that transparent, and it wasn't always consistent. And so we wanted to add transparency and consistency. So essentially what we're saying now is 6 weeks before your event, we request that you reach out and you ask and you provide a description of the event, the organizational background, how it aligns with HRC goals, the endorsement request, including whether or not you want to use the HRC as the name of as a sponsor. If you want to request a commissioner to attend the event or request a commissioner to speak at the event, the community impact, and then any other sponsors or partners who will be a part of the event. Then we will have a review process. This information will be sent out as part of the agenda, so then it will become in the public domain and can be open for consideration among the commissioners at the next meeting. And then we don't have really strict criteria for whether or not we will or won't. That can be up to the commissioners who are part of the commission at the time to set their own standards and criteria. But what this does do is create transparency around the process and transparency around what kind of information we will request. And the HRC reserves the right to decline funding for any reason. The support does not include funding, staffing, or logistical support. And then the expectations are simply that they would acknowledge the HRC support and promotional materials, the opportunity for HRC members or representatives to observe and attend the event, and then a brief follow-up report with the commission so that we can hear how it went. So that's what we're up to. Are there any questions or concerns with this approach? Yes. Vice Chair.
The only thing that I would add is we need to have the sponsors disclosed.
Oh, that's in here, actually. Other sponsors or partners is right here.
Done.
Yep.
I have no problems. I support it wholeheartedly.
Question, this is about activities per se. We have received a number of requests about like the one today, about taking a political position or a social position regarding a particular population group. This doesn't seem as though this is not really addressing the requests for support for our population group.
If the population group is having an event, for example, we're having an Asian History Month event. And I think we got a request, I think it came in too late, but it was around like Asian mental health, or maybe it was just mental health. But, you know, there are like those kinds of requests we get fairly frequently. So they can be tied to a particular population. They can be tied to a particular religion. So yes, these can sometimes come from particular parts of the Palo Alto population.
But it's centered on an event or yeah, fine. I just want to be clear.
If there are no more questions, we can move to adopt. Is this the right language, Elena? Can you help me? We would move to adopt the drafted guidelines for requesting support for the Human Relations Commission.
Yeah, I would just name it as the exact document name that you have.
Yeah, so it's the guidelines. We would move to adopt the guidelines for requesting support from the Human Relations Commission, HRC. And I'll go ahead and, can I move that as the chair?
You can, usually it's best if someone else does, but
All
you
right,
can.
Commissioner Kraus will move that.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Carmen will second that motion. And then we'll take a vote. Commissioner Shea?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kraus?
Aye.
Commissioner Barr?
Aye.
Commissioner Kazi?
Aye.
Commissioner Carmen?
Aye.
Commissioner Stimler? Aye. Great, and we forgot to take public
We
comment.
should ask if there's public comment. Does anyone want to speak on this item? I see no hands, Chair.
Sorry, okay, great. Then I think we can move, I think then that we can move to the next item on our agenda. Oh, yes, Commissioner
Can we?
Kraus. Yes, sorry, that's what I was in the middle of doing. Sorry, yes.
All of her work.
Thank you. Clearly, it was well thought out and was a smooth adoption. So thank you so much for taking the lead on that. Your professional expertise on how organizations can adopt and create things together, I think really helped pull this through. So thank you. And then finally, I wanted to do a review of the 2025 Human Relations Commission work plan and subcommittees.
Send you a quick note on that, so.
Oh, sorry, I
Help.
don't think it came through.
Oh, okay. I'll just show it to you. Just wanted to resource the chair in the conversation in a follow-up matter that
Yes,
we had together.
That makes sense. And we will go ahead and talk about the work plan. So I'm hoping that folks had a chance to review the work plan and to discuss with their subcommittees. And I had my subcommittees list, sorry. No, I've got that. I'm just looking up, here we go. So let's just go subcommittee by subcommittee, if that's all right. So we've actually made a tremendous amount of progress on our work plans already. And so what I wanted to check in on as we kind of looking towards the end of the year, if there were any additional projects, listening sessions, priorities or policies that folks would like the commission to consider. And I believe most of the subcommittees have been able to meet in the last few weeks. And so just doing a check-in subcommittee by subcommittee to see if there's anything we would like to amend to our work plan. And I will start with the first subcommittee on the list, which is inclusion and belonging, which is Commissioners Shea, Kazi, and Eberly, who isn't here. And I'll just to quickly note what's already been completed by the subcommittee. So the faith leaders listening session, revisiting the senior listening sessions, working to continue the supports of lived experiences, including MENA, Jewish, and AANHPI communities. That one is kind of a continuation of work we've been doing. A form, this one we just completed a request for local organizations to do HRC support. So that's a check mark on that. And then showing support for local pride events, which we did cover in our last meeting with the local public art events that are happening this month in June. And then working with city staff on follow-up items from listening sessions, including the DEI plan. And the one thing I will add here is that there is, and it was a question of public comment today as well, Commissioner Eberly, because she was chair at the time that this recommendation took place, and I, because I'm currently the chair, have been working on a religious tolerance training, and we're going to put that on the agenda for a July meeting, and we will have a full proposal that the commission can weigh in on. And it's coming together, I would say, actually, with quite a lot of, I just want to say we met about it today, and it was really stirring, having been through all of the listening sessions, to really have the sense that there are ways of bringing our communities together that will be really productive. And I'm excited for the conversation in July, because I think there's actually a lot of positivity and commonalities and ways of bringing religious tolerance to the forefront that I think will be really positive. I'm excited for it. So hang tight and we'll get more details on that shortly.
And just a reminder, I don't know if you said it, I was looking at something else, Chair.
Oh, yeah.
So that training, the key focus of that at this time is the HRC recommendation, which is staff, commissions, and so forth.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
exactly. That is sorry, I should have said that more clearly. The proposal that we sent to City Council was to have a religious tolerance training for city employees, council, and commissioners. So the folks who are interfacing either with the city or working within the city to address public needs. So that's what we are hoping to address in that religious tolerance meeting. Oh, sorry, it's my bad because I jumped straight to the subcommittees. Number one is actually a big one, a very big one, and probably where most of our time has been spent this year. So huge kudos to all the folks who have been working on our core responsibilities, which have been massive in our Q1, which was the HISRAP folks. Thank you, Commissioner Shea and Commissioner Kraus. Huge kudos, and that has been fully approved, I think, at this point.
That has not been
Oh,
fully
not been
approved.
fully approved,
So
sorry.
that CDBG has been fully approved. That was Monday night at council, and the HISRAP budget is within the Community Services Department budget, which is part of the proposed fiscal year 26 operating budget, and that is going next Monday night.
Next Monday night. Okay, good to know. But we're close. So we're close on getting the HISRAP through the door, and we've done with CDBG. So thank you, both of those subcommittees. I know those are really the meat of what we do as a commission, and I'm happy to see those getting pushed forward. So we can mark those off our list too. Great. Yeah, we did good. We did a lot. All right, then number 3 is public safety, and we've got Commissioners Carnum and Vice Chair Kraus. And they've just put on a tremendous event with the police and our faith leaders, as well as a fraud prevention listening session, which was really informative and awesome. Anything you all, sorry, and I forgot to ask, was there anything the Inclusion Commission wanted to add or amend to the list of projects?
I'll just share. So one other thing we completed, you
yes,
covered so much of
There's a lot.
of
Yeah.
my notes. So we did complete revisiting issues raised and recommendations from panelists at the 2023 senior learning session and identify next steps. That has been completed. We are planning a City of Palo Alto open house for religious leaders in the fall, which is to continue the work done to create connections and learn about the lived experiences of community members such as AA and HPI, MENA, and Jewish communities. Let's see, you just said the training update, and there will be a fall event planned on supporting city efforts to foster belonging through microgrant funding.
Oh, awesome.
Can you repeat that other one?
That last one, for support city efforts to foster belonging through microgrant funding, there will be a fall event planned.
Will that be an agenda item or outside of our commission hearings?
Great question.
TBD. TBD. That one's coming up. Okay, great. That's fine. They were just putting things on the work plan, so they do not need to be fully sorted out quite yet.
Back to public safety.
Yes. And now back to public safety. I know you all are working on a lot of stuff too.
The mayor reached out with a personal email after the death of the two Jewish people from the Israeli consulate in DC, and we're urging from the response to hold a further fall event with the interfaith community. They've been responsive. It's been an amazing opportunity.
Awesome.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I just wanted to go on record and say that in that faith leaders community lunch, I think the chief of police department specifically said that they went through the anti-Islamophobia and anti-Palestine training.
Yes.
That's a progress.
And thank you so much for bringing the Hindu community within our fabric, our envelope. It really is invaluable. So thank you.
One just note, it sounds like there are 2 interfaith events happening in the fall between the city and city services. So just can continue to coordinate as possible, obviously being aware of the Brown Act restrictions as well. Moving ahead to public health. Commissioner Barr, well, let's see, what have we done so far? Request, the mayor's mental health task force, I think, has kind of wound up. So that one, I think we can check off. And then the youth mental health task force, which I think is similar, it's also wrapped up for the most part.
It's the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. Okay, so I don't know why we have it on here twice. So anything else you'd like to amend from on the public health side?
The 3 of us met 2 weeks ago, and I think one of the things we wanted to work with Grierson, who's my council buddy, is to, and sorry, I might be using the wrong words, but we'll check with, I'll be meeting with him next week to understand where is this, because we wanted to understand the status of each of those programs and see if there's something more additionally we can help over the next 6 months. So probably by next month, we will have some added items.
Wonderful. Okay, great. I think.
I think
Yeah, I have
Commissioner
something.
Bard, you suggested an addendum, so.
Yes, I had, from our subcommittee meeting, I had an addendum. And my addendum was, the youth is not the only population group facing mental health challenges. And I have read recent research about seniors. And sorry if I'm getting redundant, but
I'm shaking my head because you sent me the article, so I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
acknowledging that I saw the article.
yeah, that it turns out that a rising number of seniors are experiencing loneliness, and loneliness has been associated with worse health outcomes for the seniors. And so this is something I'm going to follow up with Avenidas. I'm the liaison to Avenidas. I'm also on the board of Avenidas to try and see if they have any updates, because I know that they have some social workers who deal with the seniors who have mental health issues. And so I'm going to try and follow up more information on that. We'll get back to you later.
Wonderful, thank you.
Can I just add that to the youth mental health? I think council asked my supervisor about this at one of the recent budget hearings. And I would just like to add that when we think of youth mental health, we certainly think of Project Safety Net. We certainly think of very specific programs that focus on it, Alcove in the community and so forth. But we also consider a lot of what we do in our community services programs as youth mental health programs. The children that are in our community theater productions are the youth that are our summer camp leaders, the youth that work in many of our programs and services, our teen programs. A lot of that we also consider our youth mental health program because it is very intentionally working with youth, valuing their voice, having them be involved in something that they're passionate in. So when we have these conversations, I just wanted to, add that bit of work that we feel as a community that is youth mental health and well-being work. And so it's more than just those specific programs. So just want to put that little bug in your ear.
Great. Moving on to the Housing, Economic Justice and Development folks, let's see, what have we done so far? Conduct Know Your Rights. We've completed that. Identify ways in which HRC can provide us assistance support programs for unhoused community members. This is the one where we're going to hopefully put together a listening session on supportive, on different models for housing, including like social housing, elderly housing, some of the questions that Commissioner Barr raised earlier around whether we want integrated housing for seniors or whether we want more senior-specific housing. So bringing up those topics around housing again in the fall. So that is one we are going to continue to work on. Explores ways in which utility costs affect low-income members. I know that we have the outstanding request to have utilities come in and chat with us. And then conduct learning session on availability and affordability on childcare. We've just had the listening session and I'm working on writing up the notes from that so that we can revisit it and think through whether there are any policy recommendation, any needs for further research before we make policy recommendations. Vice Chair?
And you and I spoke about potentially pulling a subcommittee with Don leading it, me supporting him on particular senior housing and the needs. And if you're okay with that, let's go forward.
You guys want us to do a subcommittee outside of our supportive housing listening session? That's fine. If you want to have your own.
Just so we can do it,
So you two can do it together for
I'm
Brown Act
happy
purposes?
to do it.
Commissioner Kazi, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the?
So we had talked about originally we were like, should we combine elderly housing in a listening session around alternative forms of housing? And they're saying they would like to do kind of form a subcommittee of their own and to do elderly housing, which I think that's
Is
fine.
that okay with you?
I think they're both housing, but they are separate items. And I think that we can do it without being redundant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep. Okay. So I will make a note of new subcommittee.
What are we calling it?
On senior housing, subcommittee on senior housing?
Senior housing,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. Oh, yes, thank you for the reminder. Sorry, what I was just saying was that we're going to have a subcommittee consisting of Commissioner Barr and Vice Chair Kraus to look at issues surrounding senior housing. And then that wraps that subcommittee. And then we have one final subcommittee, which is climate change, which I know has been slightly, I'm not sure, is that subcommittee still meeting? Ironically, I'm on the subcommittee and I don't think we are.
Trying to think who else it is. I think
Commissioner Everly.
Commissioner Everly,
Yeah.
yeah. We've been trying to connect Commissioner Everly with the YCAP, the Youth
Yeah.
Climate Action.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of
I
fizzled.
think by the time those connections started to take place, it was the end of the school year
Okay.
for the youth. So they had a lot more commitments on their time. So that did not happen, but we could look again at that in the fall if that's still a wish of the commission.
I think that's okay I think this one can continue to be on the back burner, no pun intended for now. And we can revisit as necessary in the fall if needed. It sounds like we have a lot going on already with our various subcommittees.
An electric back burner, let's be.
Electric back burner, please. Yes, only. All right. And then last, we have an emerging issues bucket. Were there any emerging issues that the commission would like to raise or address? Do you want to say this for announcements?
I guess so. Oh, okay.
And then we'll wrap this up and then we'll go to announcements.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for continuing to charge through on this work plan. I was pleasantly surprised when I went through it and saw how much we had actually already checked off. So we are doing a great job on continuing to focus and get things done. And in a climate where there's always a longer and longer list of things that need to be addressed by our commission. So thank you all for that. I think, do we have any public comment related to the work plan?
No.
Okay, then we will move forward to official city reports. I will, this would maybe be a decent time. I will ask Vice Chair to share a little bit around what has been happening with the city and state. Yeah, I'll just leave with that.
We're hoping going forward that we can join in supporting our governor and our city leaders that came together last Sunday on the steps of City Hall, defending immigrant rights and asking for protests that are peaceful, always. And going into the 14 by 14, which is this Saturday, it's a huge day of protest with a protest spanning from the Tesla dealership in Palo Alto to the Tesla dealership in Sunnyvale. I'm hoping that we as a commission can be as supportive and informative as we can to our constituents. There will be 10,000 people attending that protest on Saturday. If there's any questions, our governor has made clear and concise statements in supporting our immigrant community and asking the public and all of the constituents to be peaceful. Know your rights, but be peaceful. And that is so important as we go forward as a community. Have I missed anything, Chair?
I think you did a great job. I think just reminding everyone that our mayor was at that press conference.
Our vice mayor.
Yes, our vice mayor, our representative was at the conference.
Our congressional representative, Sam Liccardo. To the north, Congressional Representative Kevin Mullen.
Yeah.
To the north, supervisors were there. To the south, Betty Dung was there for our supervisor from Santa Clara County. Who am I forgetting?
It was a big turnout. And if anyone is feeling,
And Josh Becker,
Yes.
our state senator, and a statement was read from Assembly Person Mark Berman.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've probably all been on social media today and seen the unfortunate treatment of our U.S. Senator Alex Padilla. And we hope that things will go forward in peace.
Yeah, I would recommend if anyone's just feeling a little overwhelmed or unsupportive at this time, watching that press release was really powerful. Like I would just recommend folks take a minute to look it up and watch it because it was valuable at challenging times like this when I feel like everyone in our state might be feeling a little vulnerable, but especially some of our most vulnerable populations may be feeling fearful. To watch that press release and see that people in power are standing up for your rights and for your free speech. It was moving to watch, and I'd recommend it to everyone.
And you can share it or I can share it.
Yeah.
It's a video that was done, I believe, by Palo Alto Online or the San Jose Mercury. There's adequate coverage.
Yep.
We have it, we can give it to you, Minka, if you want to distribute it more than between the two of us.
That was great.
It's very good. It's very hopeful. And it shows our leadership well. Our mayor stood tall.
Great. Yeah, we'll forward it to you. It was great. All right, any other commissioner reports?
Just a question, follow-up question on that. So for that protest happening on 14, do we have to do any?
No, and we're not officially sponsoring it as
not
HRC.
officially.
She's just
Thank you.
making an announcement.
So Vice Chair Kraus and I had our quarterly check-in with the police department. So I've got some big updates from them. So as we talked about before, we had both the recent fraud event and the Faith Leaders Luncheon. The Faith Leaders event was extremely helpful for all faith leaders, just to be in the room together and have regular dialogue. There was a lot of questions about ICE and immigration, and I do just want to reiterate this statement from Chief Binder. Our department policy expressly forbids officers from inquiring about an individual's immigration status for purposes of immigration enforcement. Moreover, our policy and state law prohibit cooperation with federal authorities for the purpose of immigration enforcement. Our officers do work effectively with our federal law enforcement partners on criminal investigations not involving immigration enforcement. It is important to Chief Binder that all members of our community, regardless of their nationality or immigration status, feel safe contacting their police department when they need help. Other updates, they're waiting on a final move-in date for the new police building. The city is in budget season and has been relying on the rainy day fund. All departments have been asked to make cuts, and the city manager, it won't be from the city manager and won't be clear toward the fall if the department is impacted by those cuts. It sounds like the impact will likely be capital projects. The department currently has 8 vacancies, and they don't want to freeze any of those vacancies. Another item that was brought up was the council has previously asked the department about RIPA data, and the analysis on that RIPA data is being done by a grant-funded think tank, and anything that can speed up that analysis would be extremely helpful. Catalytic converter theft continues to be down, likely due to legislation regulating scrap metal buyers. Organized retail theft continues to be the focus of the department. They got grant funding to provide more of a presence at the mall, Town and Country, downtown and California Avenue, which has resulted in a higher arrest rate and higher recovery of property rate. The grant funding also increased the number of license plate readers. They are not in residential areas. They are areas where it is helpful to identify retail theft. And they have also been helpful in cases like finding missing seniors. This was discussed at the fraud event, but USPS continues to deal with theft in the blue mailboxes. This can be done with really simple tools, and you might see some teeth on the blue mailboxes to help prevent this. Violent crime continues to be low. I mentioned this earlier, but I asked about unhoused people refusing services, and the case of many of them, when they refuse services, are already receiving services or don't feel safe going to a shelter. The subject of the psych emergency response team was brought up. This is called PERT. When this program launched, they had an amazing clinician, and she had to move to Southern California to be with family. And so PERT has gone a long time without a county clinician. And it was really helpful to have both an officer and a county clinician in this program. Unfortunately, in the last county budget discussion, they want to sunset PERT and move any clinicians in that program to the mobile crisis response team, where there's no officers, there's only clinicians. The city had allocated funds for clinicians, so if this is a matter of funding, the city has had a check for somebody ready for some time. Supervisor Abe Koga both fought for PERT not to be sunset when this was raised at the county. And the final item is just, there have been no ICE events that they're aware of in the city of Palo Alto. And so far, they feel that immigrant communities still feel really safe going to the department.
If I may add, there are two additional things that are three that are very important. First of all, we have a new assistant chief. His name is James Reichschneider. He is promoted. He has become an important partner to our chief of police, and it's a pleasure to work with him. In addition to that, to clarify, the blue boxes, do not put your mail in a blue box, period. Because theft is high and washing of checks is prevalent. And finally, the police under county supervision were present at the protest for the Stanford students that are being charged, arraigned, and processed. And everything resolved peacefully. And the protesters were moved to a nearby park, and all was resolved with no violence whatsoever.
Wonderful. Thank you for that meaty update. Any other commissioner or commissioner liaison reports? I'll just give one shout out to Mink and Elena, who knocked it out of the park at the Homelessness Resource Fair yesterday. It's really quite inspiring to see. I know I got pretty huffy about a state of homelessness in Palo Alto, and it's true that housing continues to be an issue, but there are a tremendous number of really caring service providers that the city has brought together for folks. And as is my family annual tradition, my sister and I volunteered to do haircuts.
I was going to mention that if you didn't.
Oh, I don't know how much longer the homeless population will put up with our barbering services, but we tried our best. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. My sister is really the barber. She got stuck at a doctor's appointment. So my apologies to the homeless community, but some of them look a little better now. Hopefully they feel a little better. All right. And then I think our last agenda item is staff liaison reports.
I don't have anything tonight.
Council member Greer hasn't attended the last couple meetings. Do you know if he's planning on attending in the future?
He has been in communication each time with Elena.
And he's out of the country today, and will be back with bells on his toes going forward.
Awesome. All right, next agenda item is commissioner questions, comments, announcements, and future meetings, which brings me to the announcement that we would like to meet in July so that we can move forward on some decisions regarding the religious tolerance training for the city commission and councils. Is there anyone here who knows that they will not be available on July 10th? All right, incredible.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all. I know traditionally there have been a lot of Julys without commission meetings, but it would be great to move that forward quickly, so I appreciate you. Then I think we can go ahead and adjourn.